Hisakere Messi, Mechokit Manmarokachi Haya Yafkayan Arakov, Olikera Hisakiros, Nakchera Pachancha.
Do you remember who you are?
A true American reflects the color of America's rich soils. Those who are new to our land are not only new here, but also new to Earth itself. Those 9 ether beings who still have the covering of American Earth upon their bodies have become spiritually displaced. The elements have marked the newcomers by removing their covering, hence their blank complexion. They are unfit to indwell your ecosystem because they are unfinished people, just as white as they were when they swam as semen upstream like salmon to the cosmic egg. The sun kills 1 of every 40 white people with melanoma before they can complete a natural life cycle. One of every 40 white people, yet only kills 1 of every 1,000 9 ether beings. Euro-Americans rape the land because they are naturally opposed to balance, and as such, they deplete all their resources quickly like a male virgin on his first voyage into the deep of a woman. As such, they're destroying all natural sources of sustenance. Crops, livestock, trees, clean water. They burn holes into the earth's covering and now haphazardly scramble to repair it. They make war on every continent and now draw the eyes of many enemies upon our land, placing us in the crosshairs of their adversaries. I come bearing a message from the ancestors. Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Do not live as the paleface lives. Do not do as the uncovered human does. Just as they are incomplete, their guidance is incomplete. All their great philosophers, from John Locke to Thomas Paine, have pontificated what it takes to build a perfect society. Where does natural law end and man-made law begin? Your ancestors were given the answers to all those questions by the elements of the universe. The elements of the universe are the powers of existence. Each one is a force of nature unto itself. They are the real creators of all things, no matter what religion has told you. What ancient Hebrews called Elohim is plural, and they were referring to the elements. Not Jesus. Not the Trinity. Not God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost. The ancient Greek colonizer adapted the spiritual wisdom gifted to your swarthy ancient ancestors and colonized your scrolls, colonized your identity, colonized your story, and made it his story. They have done everything they could to break you in the modern day. They found you again in your new home 2,000 years later and forced you to submit to the colonized story. They forced you to acknowledge one of their own ethnic groups as the people whom the elements chose. They forced you to call the elements Jesus, and they forced you to accept Jesus' story as fact. They did this through direct oppression and affliction like enslavement, black codes, Jim Crow, and church. They waged hundreds of wars and burned down your settlements before and after slavery. When you prospered, they refused to sell you a home out of spite because they hated that you had found a way to afford it. When you rioted and forced them to let you vote, they criminalized you in every conceivable way and over-policed your neighborhood to throw you in jail and build a new slave workforce. When they made it illegal for you to identify as Indians, you chose a new African identity and reinvented yourself to inspire Euro-American acceptance. They've taken every step they could to eradicate your socio-economic power and presence on your own land. Despite all this, Your political power remains the utmost threat to their empire. You are the ones who should govern this land. Our people know right from wrong on a deeper level than anyone because we were taught by the elements directly. We know exactly what society is supposed to be, which is why we must fulfill the Algonquian prophecy of the return of the sacred fire. American Indian sages foretold the demise of the land at the hand of the white man and the abandonment of indigenous identity by the original peoples of the land. This was the death of the sacred fire, a tradition carried by all Eastern nations.
Hey y'all! First of all, like and subscribe to the channel, but also, Unehiya is recruiting, and if you don't know what Unehiya is, we're a grassroots activist group lobbying Congress to amend a bill to require education and research to acknowledge the Negro origins of Aboriginal groups of North America. If any of you have it to give, please support the campaign using the QR code on your screen, join the campaign with a donation, and if you have the time, you can even join our staff to help guide the organization, not just for this campaign, but also future endeavors. Don't speak about it, be about it. Let's go.
We must return to the sacred fire by rekindling our old traditions. But to summon all our people to the ancient ways, we must first compel the white man to admit who we are. If you become one of the Unehiya, you'll be leading that movement. We can prove our identity and demand truth and reconciliation from Congress. Barack Obama isn't even one of us, and yet we made him leader of the free world. Our vote was the largest, and we were the deciding factor. We allowed Trump to become president by disengaging and not voting. We voted in fewer numbers than ever in the last 20 years. The political stage bends to our will in every election season, yet we never even notice our own impact. If you know who you are, if you know who we are, but you don't declare it, you are the enemy of the people. All tribes will unite and regain the original wisdom of the ancestors. Our spirituality was never religion. It was shamanic science. Before Columbus, our folklore was chock full of both allegories and real anecdotes explaining that the thunderbirds or sky people inhabited the upper atmosphere, yet it took until the 2020s for pale-face science to discover the plasma orbs. Before Columbus, we all taught versions of a shared oral tradition regarding the great prehistoric flood that destroyed civilizations everywhere, and yet it has taken European geologists until the 21st century to substantiate the claim. Before Columbus, we buried our dead without coffins, and only now do Europeans realize that cremation is a biohazard for the ozone layer and that casket burials waste natural resources with massive carbon footprints. Before the siege of Jerusalem, our ancient ancestors bathed regularly simply because the law given to them by the elements commanded it. It took the pale face until the 20th century to tell us there was even such a thing as germs and that our tradition of constant washing might save whole populations. They've copied us in that regard ever since. The white man will tell you that the supreme god of the Cherokee is a sun god called Unehiya. Wrong! The individual morphemes of the word Unehiya translate to possessor of the primeval waters. This means creator of the primordial soup, the existence of which Europeans only just discovered in the 19th century as the biological origin of living organisms on Earth. The invocation you heard me speak at the beginning. I spoke to the Lord of the Sacred Wind. My Hichiti and Muskogee ancestors called him Hisakiremesi, the Master of Breath. The European created his Bible by compiling the scrolls of our ancient Israelite ancestors and adding a whole new set of codices and epistles to them. But your original scroll recorded the elements as breathing the breath of life into human beings. That is the sacred wind. That's what spirit is. Even the colonizer's religion is dependent on the instruction of the elements given to our ancestors. Our wisdom lies in our traditions, and our power comes from the elements. They speak the future of all humanity through us, which is the power of creation. the power of prophecy. Certain members of our community are chosen by the forces of nature to bend reality in a certain direction by speaking divine sentences. The Algonquian shaman did this when they foretold that we would fall away from our traditions and abandon our identity. We did exactly that. But they also foretold that we would return to reclaim that identity, which is happening as we speak. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. That's why. Likewise, our ancient Israelite ancestors prophesied that we would be scattered all over the world as slaves, that we would forget who we were. That's what has happened to us. But they also said we would rediscover ourselves when the cedars of Lebanon were forced to return. And that's exactly what's happening now. I myself spoke the retaliation of Iran against Israel into existence last year on camera and posted the prophecy on this channel. The future was shown to me in a dream by existence herself, and I became an oracle of the elements. It wasn't just the attacks, but also the regional circumstances surrounding the attacks. I was specific, and I spoke those words into an open flame upon the emergence of the new moon. I spoke an entire series of events into existence in 2024. The elements moved through me against Middle Eastern nations to begin the purge. You'll have a chance to click a video that proves all this at the end of this video, but the point I'm making is that black people are not only the American Indians, but also that the American Indians are the spiritual leaders of humanity. The world's in the shape it's in today because the ethnic group chosen to lead humanity didn't do its job. The only reason we've been oppressed by others is because we abdicated our responsibility to teach them how to live, how to build their civilizations, how to legislate and litigate righteousness. Righteousness is simply a harmony with nature that contributes to the ongoing creation of the universe. Creation neither began with Earth nor ended with humanity, but rather continues even now as the universe persistently expands. Yet another truth the European didn't understand until Alexander Freedman explained it to them. Do you see it yet? Do you remember who you are? You chose this life before you lived it. You spoke it into existence. You are your ancestors, and they are the elements now, just as you will be once you transition. Those who have eyes to see can see beyond the transition ahead as well as the transition behind. Do you see it yet? Do you remember who you are? You were the chosen people of existence, which is the universe, the creator. She's made up of elements because elements are building blocks, and she is the builder, and you are the stone that the builder refused. Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Stop wasting the sacrifices of your ancestors. Stop choosing weakness. Stop following and start leading. Be first. Become one with Unehiya and seize control of your identity. If you don't stand for something, you'll die for nothing. Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Do you remember who you are? 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 Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Do you remember who you are? 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 Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Do you remember who you are? 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 Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob!